Hi everyone, welcome to Mentor Public Library's Book and Brush Club, facilitated by our own Barb. Today, she's going to be going over celebrating post-impressionism with Henri Matisse. Enjoy!
The impetus for this slide presentation came from the Book and Brush Club discussion series featuring the novel The Collector's Apprentice by B.A. Shapiro. In this novel, the dazzling collection of post-impressionist art of the Barnes Foundation was introduced. Included in this presentation are works by artists that have influenced Henri Matisse and a group of painters who became known as the Fauves. Fauvism earned its name by exaggeration of color techniques pioneered by the intensified palettes of Cézanne, Gauguin, and Van Gogh. Henri Matisse described Cézanne as the father of us all. This epithet refers to Cézanne's role as the patriarch of modern painting. Matisse's enthusiasm for Cézanne was overwhelming. In this painting by Cézanne of Leda and the Swan, Leda is depicted as if she were a courtesan in her boudoir, as Zeus in the form of the swan grabs her wrist in the act of seduction. The curves of Leda's breasts, belly, and hips, while accentuated, represent the natural contours of the female form. Her loosened hair falls in waves upon her shoulders, paralleling the shape of the swan's wings and limbs. The colors are less descriptive of the forms of which they are applied and become more of a shading technique, rendering mottled tones of blue, white, green, and red. The dreamy expression on Leda's face is directed inward, but the emphasis of her red cheeks, echoing the color of her hair, heightens the overall effect of warm flesh tones of the figure. Cézanne's lively use of colors inspired Henri Matisse to claim that tones are the force in a picture. The paintings of Paul Gauguin also influenced the Fauve artists. Gauguin gives nod to Manet's Olympia in this reclining nude figure called the Queen of Beauty. Done in watercolor, it appears as a sketch written on paper depicting a beautiful Tahitian woman whose legs are crossed as she conceals her private parts to offer herself as a prostitute. As in Cézanne's rendition of Leda and the Swan, the queen's gaze is averted away from the viewer with a mysterious seductiveness. Unlike Cézanne, Gauguin does not place emphasis on the contours of the female body parts, but instead elongates the torso, arms, and legs. Moreover, Gauguin has constructed the space into three planes with muted shades of blue and tan colors, massing them into large flat areas to differentiate the sky from the seashore and foreground landscape. Don't copy nature too literally, Gauguin advised. Matisse's reclining nude, as we shall see in the next slide, appears more abstract and sculptural than Gauguin's representation here. In this painting, Blue Nude, or Souvenir de Biskra, Matisse frees both color and form from reality. His intense use of blue shading and the luminosity of the flesh tones create a powerful visual impact, as do the proportions of form and the patterns of palm tree arches in the background. The viewer notices Matisse's homage to both Cézanne and Gauguin when we compare this work to Leda and the Swan and the Queen of Beauty. The woman's gaze is reflected inwards, beneath a mask-like countenance. The proportions of her breast, torso, and hip are greatly accentuated towards the point of abstraction, and the forms beneath her arms and legs are reduced to basic triangular shapes, constructing the space as a conglomeration of color and form. Matisse at this time was also working in sculpture, which gave him pause to clarify his ideas about painting. He was influenced by African sculpture, the Etruscans, and the art of the Aegean. Van Gogh was another post-impressionist artist that Matisse greatly admired. Matisse acknowledged that Van Gogh's work encouraged him to strive for a freer, more spontaneous technique, for more intense, more expressive harmonies. This painting by Van Gogh of the olive orchard gives the impression of a faded memory of an idyllic landscape meadow populated with olive trees. In the following painting of large plane trees, the viewer can feel the expressive power of the color laid on the canvas in strong, purposeful strokes. This painting, called The Large Plane Trees, is from the Cleveland Museum of Art. The lines of the trees in André Derain's Mountains at Collioure are made with strokes of long, pure color. Compared to the twisted lines of Van Gogh's trees, the viewer feels that the color is less expressive than it had been for Van Gogh in the painting of the large plane trees. Yet the leaves of the trees in both the Mountains at Collioure and Van Gogh's olive orchard show similarities in loose and lively brushstrokes conveying the swaying power of the wind. While Derain looked to Van Gogh for inspiration, Matisse continued to search for intensity of pure color that would obtain stronger, more evident, simultaneous reactions. This painting, called Open Window, is considered one of the essential works of the Fauve school, a group of French artists including Matisse, André Derain, Georges Braque, and Maurice de Vlaminck, active between 1904 and 1907. Art critic Louis Vaucel coined the movement fauve, or wild beasts, when he viewed the paintings of this group of artists at the Salon d'Automne exhibition in 1905. The fauves liberated color from any requirements other than those posed by the painting itself. When I put a green, Matisse would say, "It is not grass." When I put a blue, it is not the sky. Matisse's imperative was to interpret nature and submit it to the spirit of the picture. In this painting, the colors function in complementary pairs: orange-red mass over blue hulls, red blossoms amid green leaves, opposing reflections of turquoise and pink on the walls. Complements such as these become more intense when seen next to each other. In this work, the open-angled doors invite the viewer to gaze on the recessed vista through the series of windows nested within frames. The image of this open window is a motif Matisse will return to in his later works. In 1904, while Matisse was painting at Saint-Tropez, he came under the influence of the neo-impressionists, particularly in the use of the pointillism technique, as illustrated in this painting of the Seine and La Grande Chatte by Georges Seurat. Seurat scientifically placed tiny points of color directly onto the canvas that would blend together more vibrantly than if they had been applied by blending them first on the palette. Matisse created the composition of luxury, calm, and delight, in which he applied small rectangular dots uniformly in all shades of the rainbow to depict a scene of bathers at the beach. However, Matisse came to believe that the neo-impressionist reliance on theory was limiting. My choice of colors does not rest on any scientific theory. It is based on observation, on feeling, on the very nature of each experience. Maurice de Vlaminck credits his preoccupation with color to the works of Van Gogh, as well as the explosive paintings of Matisse and Derain from their time at Collioure. Tugboats on the Seine is a brilliant example of Vlaminck's most accomplished fauve manner. His broad brushstrokes are loaded with pure color, and there are no shadows. The red, white, and blue colors of the tugboats are repeated in the reflections in the water, which lends a degree of naturalism to the painting, an element that often distinguishes Vlaminck's work from that of Derain and Matisse. This harbor scene, painted by Georges Braque, reveals his innovative use of fauve colors that are uniformly nondescriptive. Braque began exhibiting his fauve canvases in the spring of 1907, but his interest would turn towards the implications of a structural release style that would gradually but dramatically distance him from the pattern colorism of fauve painting and develop more abstractly into cubism. Like Braque, Fauvism for Matisse was only one stage among others that he would pursue. Matisse writes, What I pursue, above all, is expression. I do not think it can be conveyed by passions fleeting across a face or even by violent movements. It is to be found in my entire painting, the area occupied by figures, the empty spaces around them, the proportions, all these play a part. The art of composition consists in being able to arrange the different elements which the painter has at his disposal to express feelings in a decorative manner. This is one of many paintings Matisse made after the Fauve painting period during the 1920s. Matisse returned to his earlier interest in the human figure, often in interior scenes, often incorporating views through windows. As an old man, Henri Matisse took scissors in hand and continued to produce great art. He took brightly colored paper and cut into color to produce shapes that he would glue onto background paper, such as this collage called Beasts of the Sea. Matisse designed tapestries, ceramic tiles, models for stained glass windows, and wall decorations using the paper cutout technique. Matisse remained active until the day he died. Thank you.